Yeah, I'm not sure all the things are in the right place. It's got all the right functions on it. It's like the Morecambe and Wise sketch, which you'll not be familiar with, David. It's got all the right notes, they're just not necessarily all being played in the right order. I think you want this like a resonance watch where all the bits rotate. And for $22,000, I don't think I'm buying a watch. I mean, I don't think I'm buying a watch at $22,000 full stop. But I don't think I'm buying a watch that just makes me go, it's a bit too Picasso. The face is just rearranged in a funny order. Greetings and welcome to this week's aBlogtoWatch Weekly. We are joined by David. Good morning, David.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening.
And good night.
And good night.
Yes, good night. That's our show for this week. Have a great week. Goodbye. And we're joined by Simon, Escapement24. How are you, Simon?
I'm very good. Hello, everyone.
Good. You have just returned from the Dracula's castle that is the new MB&F workshops. How was that, Simon?
That was a fantastic trip, actually. Really, really good.
Isn't it just the best?
It really is. Really. So I think maybe the day that I got back, they released this kind of short video, which is kind of all about the new HQ there, the Madhouse, as they call it. Sort of a short promotional video that they produced. And it actually just really captures the whole spirit of that place. It really is magical. You feel like you're going into some kind of almost like a wizard's lair or something, you know, with the stuff that they're creating there and the way, just the whole, you know, the kind of, even from the sculpture as you approach on the driveway is just incredible. And, you know, just so many amazing things there. So it was a really good trip. Max is an amazing guy. The whole team there was so hospitable. Got to interview him, which was fantastic, and play with lots of the watches. So, yeah, very good.
Good. I pictured the facility as being a cross between like Dracula's castle and what's the name of the doctor from Back to the Future?
Emmett Brown.
Emmett Brown. That's
yeah,
it.
Emmett
Dr.
Brown.
Brown.
I watched it last week when I was sick at home. That's how I know.
Halfway between Emmett Brown's like workshop and Dracula's castle. I want to know, does Max have the best office? Has he got like an office in the middle where he can observe all his minions?
You would imagine so, like some sort of Bond villain. But Max actually has the smallest, or one of the smallest rooms that I saw. Which probably says a lot.
That's just the room he shows you, though.
Maybe, yeah.
But there's a secret panel behind the door. You go through, it's got one of those James Bond tables with a gun that runs the length of the table.
It certainly wouldn't be surprised at all.
Flyer at the bottom.
I didn't get to see the dungeons, so, you know, I mean, who knows what that's like.
Dungeons. David, how was the rewatch of Back to the Future? Does it stand up to scrutiny?
Well, the first episode does, and then the other ones not so much. But whatever, it's always a charming little show. So it's it's always fun to rewatch after a couple of years.
There must be watch content in Back to the Future, is there not?
I think there's a Casio of sorts. Honestly, I can't remember right now. But what's funny is that I'm actually more disappointed in our civilization than I am in Back to the Future, because by 2015 we were supposed to have flying cars and all the rest of it. And
I'm still waiting for my jetpack.
Yeah, exactly. And it costs $39,999 to convert your regular car into a flying one. So, you know, still waiting on that.
Yeah, and the hoverboards that they've got now just aren't the same as they were shown in Back to the Future, are they?
Yes, it's a disgrace. Yeah. I mean, as I say, I'm still waiting for my, jetpack as revealed at was it 1982 Los Angeles Olympics? What was the LA Olympics where the guy came in the jetpack? I want my jetpack. I am not leaving planet Earth until I get my jetpack. In fact, I'll probably leave planet Earth the day I get my jetpack.
Yes, that's why they don't give it out to people, because, we would just stop paying taxes and just fly off this planet.
Great stuff. Right, let's talk about some watches. First of all, actually, a bit of last week's show this week. So the 50 Phantoms watch proved so popular that, as well as having to make an apology, I'm not quite sure what the apology was about. I think there was a bit of a problem with the ordering system, maybe. But actually, there's now an unlimited edition. I've still not got to the bottom of why there's 670 made.
Yes.
Only thing I can vaguely find is there's some like religious numerology around the number 670, but I suspect it's not that sophisticated. But the 50 Phantoms is now available. I think you have to do a pre-order, and they're going to make however many they get pre-ordered in either blue or a kind of ghostly grey colour. So if we whetted your appetite for that last week, and I have to say the unlimited edition is $399, I think,
Yes.
which I think basically makes it cheaper than the plastic watch version from
Yeah.
Swatch.
That's
A fully
hysterical.
mechanical with some comedy actual wristwatch for under $400.
I think it's genius.
It is great. It is probably one of the best, collaborations and funny, and the price means that it's actually a joke you can afford to tell, which is probably the most important for those of us addicted to watches. Rolex also became the new owners and landlords of a big Omega boutique. I don't know if you've seen this story, but they've bought a big block of building, and Omega happened to be one of the main tenants. So as well as Rolex buying other watch brands and retail spaces, they're now getting into the landlord space of other watch brands. So that should be fun.
Do you think the rent is going to be going up rather quickly in that for that
I'm
boutique?
not sure what the rules of rent abatement and rent control is in the canton of Geneva. I suspect it's not as controlled as it is in the city of New York. So yeah, I think any opportunity there is to, extract something from the Swatch Group, you'd think you'd take it, if for no other reason than the giggle, than the laugh factor of, yes, I'm your landlord,
Exactly.
back in your box.
Yeah.
But there we have it. So that's a bit of a catch-up. Anything in the news this week caught either of your attention, Simon, David?
Well, I think it's not new news really, but I think I'm still reeling from the OmniWatch situation. I think that we haven't really heard anything more about that one. I'm not sure whether we are going to hear anything more, but I think that it's just such a shame really about that whole situation. I'm hoping that we will eventually find out that everything was above board and that it will resume. But unfortunately, I don't hold out a great deal of hope for that.
I don't think there's really any implication that any money has gone missing, just that it's not been spent very quickly considering how much they raised, and that there's maybe been some sharp practice
Yep.
in the way they've constructed the spending of the money. They have now said something about, oh yeah, we're holding the personal shares of this company we've created, but that's for a legal reason, and we're now going to give it all back, and it'll all be owned by the foundation, which is fine. But it's maybe a bit too late for that.
Yes.
Maybe you should have laid that out in the founding documents of the organisation and told everybody. When you have to do that as a press release after the event, it doesn't smell good. But I dare say we'll probably get the right outcome in the end as far as all the money that has been raised. I think it's a question as to whether the organisation remains to exist doing what it has done in the past and raise even more money, or whether these kind of only watches find a different home and a different method of sale. David, any reflections on that or anything else in the news that's caught your attention? You're going off to the FHH shortly.
Yes.
Your bags packed?
FHH forum, leaving in a couple of hours. Looking forward to that. It's going to be my first FHH forum. I was also invited to the GPHG, where I'm not going. It's just boycotting it basically at this point. I was like, I can't take that. I'm sorry. I just I can't. And it's funny because someone very charming invited me and then invited me again, and I'm like, well, are you sure? And I'm like, I can't be any more sure that I don't want to go to the Grand Prix, the Horological de Genève. So I'm sitting that one out. Actually, I will be on my way back home, thank goodness, by Thursday.
We haven't really done much GPHG chat.
Yes.
And you know what? It's probably just going to stay that way. So there we go. Right, let's talk about some watches. Well, actually, we're not going to talk about some watches per se, but we're going to look at Sean's article, Time Machine's article, Ecstasy of gold plating with the Heuer Camaro reference 73445 CHT watch. Now, I'm not familiar with this watch, but I am familiar with gold plating and I am familiar with small gold watches. David, you have been anticipating the return of small gold watches for some time.
Yes.
Are we still in the foothills of that return? Are you sitting there like some sort of evangelical anticipating the imminent return only to change the date every time it doesn't actually happen?
Yes, actually, I'm looking forward very much to that. I just read up an article about Sylvan Berneron's new brand and watch, who's been a guest on the show a couple of times. And wouldn't you know, he's launching a 33.2 by 42 millimeter, more or less square watch in gold, only in gold, small. And, like, who else would be ahead of the curve than somebody who is actually an industry professional, right? So, I'm still holding on to my anticipations and expectations that we will start to see a lot of these smaller gold watches, and they will soon after be regarded as the be-all and end-all of good taste. And look at me, it will be a race. Like, who rocks the smaller gold watch sooner? I give it less than 5 years for that.
Less than 5 years. What small gold watches do you both own? I have a gold-plated Vulcan Cricket, which is really nice. It's tiny, but you wear it in a bun strap, and it beefs it out a bit and makes it actually wearable. Simon, you must have some heirloom kicking about or something you've bought. We all went through that phase of going on eBay or wherever, finding the little watch that just looked nice, only for it to arrive and prove to be far too small. Although you have got quite skinny wrists.
Yeah, I mean, that would probably big for me. Disappointingly, I haven't actually got anything in the collection that kind of fits that niche. But not to say that situation won't remain. But I'm still picturing David kind of practicing alchemy and trying to turn smelt moon swatches into gold or something.
You just read my mind, Simon. I was just thinking about I will get a gold plating home kit, that you can buy for like, I don't know, hopefully $50, and I will gold plate literally everything I have in my site.
Have we actually seen any moon swatches modded? Has anyone seen any modded moon swatches on the internet on Instagram?
No.
I think that's something that's waiting to. Can you gold plate plastic?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, you can
gold
spray paint it. Yes.
Spray paint it. Get those cans out.
Yeah.
the Banksy of the horological world. David, do you actually own lots of small gold watches? I mean, are you trying to hodinky us? Are you trying to?
I'm hoarding all of them.
You're hoarding all of them, trying to boost the price via your massive media presence, and then introduce them, drip feed them into the market, and walk off with a small fortune.
I maybe I would do that, although I won't. But technically, there's basically innumerable quantities of small gold and gold plated watches out there that can be had for just next to nothing, basically. So no such plan. I don't own a gold watch. I actually have never owned a gold watch.
Hold on a second. You're the one talking about how gold watches are coming back, and you neither own. Yeah, you don't own a gold watch.
I never said I liked it. I just said it's going to happen.
Oh no, I think there was a distinct impression that you liked the fact that this is where the market was going.
No, well,
I think you need to set this trend. I think we need to set you a task. We need to give you 500 imaginary aBlogtoWatch dollars.
Okay,
and you have to go spend it on the. Okay, you've got till the end of the show. Try not make the clicking in the background too loud. You've got to the end of the show to find the best gold watch buy on eBay. So go and start hunting. Simon, feel free to join in this game, and we'll touch back on at the end of the show.
Well, look, I've got to already say that Camaro that's in the article, I think, is absolute stunner. I mean, I saw that and I thought, wow, I really want one of those. I mean, I know it's only gold plated, but that is a really nice vintage piece.
It is a lovely looking watch. It's a lovely looking watch. So go and check out Sean's article on that watch and on gold in general. We did mention Sylvan Berneron in our last little chat, and he is back doing his actual job, which is being the creative director of Breitling, and we have a debut of the new Breitling Avenger watches for 2023. I've not spoken to Sylvan for a few weeks, but presumably this is all his doing. So shall we mark Sylvan's work out of 10? What do we think, David? Has Sylvan been working too hard on his own project and not spending enough time on these things, or has he got this just right?
No, I quite like
And so he
this
should
one.
be excused.
He shall be. It was a long time coming for the new Avenger. They're colorful, they are bold. They're not as over the top as they used to be, but they're still pretty over the top. A lot of shiny parts, a lot of notches, like innumerable little like marks and notches and graduations and whatever else. So it's like you look at this and like, how many things can I measure with this chronograph that is the same chronograph as any other, basically? So it's positively over the top as befits an Avenger, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think it was 8 watches released in all. It was something of that scale.
Yeah.
Where do we think the Avenger fits into the world of watches? Like, if you're not buying this range of watches, and these are a standard 3-hander, a chronograph, and a GMT, what are you buying instead? Do all of these watches fit in the same market segment against other brands, or does each one compete against something different? So the 3-hander, like, if you're not buying this, what are you buying instead? Is it a Tudor? Is it a Rolex?
A Tudor
Is
for
it...
sure. If you're not buying that, the 300 is 42 millimeters wide, and it's $4,600 or $4,850 on a bracelet. So yeah, right around Tudor, pricing, thereabouts. But the chrono is a completely different proposition because it's 9,500, so it's basically almost exactly double the price of the 3-hander. And sure, it has the B01 movement, and Breitling prices that rather highly because it's, for one, it's a fantastic movement, but for two, it's their high-end chronograph proposition. And so yeah, it's twice the price. It's a lot less than the Zenith we will be looking at, so it's still not in the realms of like $12,000-$13,000 that so many other manufacturers are charging for a steel bracelet chrono. But yeah, it's almost 10 grand anyway.
The 9 grand strikes me as an interesting pricing zone for a chronograph at the moment, because it's not like, you go into the kind of Daytona, Omega high-end stuff, and you're in that, but then you've also got the kind of Navi timer, and I think the Navi timer and the kind of top times are all cheaper than this chronograph. So this chronograph is a bit of a boost in price on the Breitling side of things. I mean, the top times are like about 8 grand, I think.
Yeah.
What a modern Navi timer B01 is. I think they're about about 9
same.
grand, maybe. They're probably about the same as this. So is this their own carve out of the chronograph market? What's the equivalent of this? Because I can't think of anything. I can't think, if I'm spending 9 grand on a chronograph, I'm not sure what else you're looking at. Because you're either going cheaper into, I mean, is a moon, not a moon swatch. That just shows you how they've
watch. They ruined it for good.
That shows you how they've ruined it. A moon watch. What's a standard Speedmaster these days? 6.5, something like that?
Yeah, it's about 6.5 here in the UK.
Yeah, so it's cheaper than this. Obviously, it's not as rugged and all the rest of it. So this is maybe their own wee carve out. But what about the GMT? What's that sitting against?
I think you're, I think you can look at an Omega Planet Ocean GMT or something like that. Although that's bulkier, like thicker, whatever. Price wise, might be something similar. Maybe something from Grand Seikos, maybe something from IWC is not very strong on GMTs as far as I know, but yeah, like an IWC chrono is again like 10K, 11K, something like that. Things are getting really expensive, honestly. Like these chronographs used to be like 6,000-7,000, and now more of them, or maybe 8, and now a lot of them are like 11, 12, 13, which is just crazy high for some of these things.
Yeah, I think the Planet Ocean and the IWC chronos, I think, are probably the closest comparables for some of these, because I'm not sure, David, about your analogy with Tudor on the 3-handers. I get it in terms of the price point, but I think that it's a very different buyer, because I think the Tudors have a much more delicate's a strange word, I suppose, to use for this, but these are sort of bigger, beefier, chunkier watches that for me have a completely different aesthetic. And I think for me that makes me feel like it's a different buyer, a different audience.
I just found out that you can buy, I was wondering how much a Cartier Santos chronograph. I think it's probably off the map for a lot of people, but it's 9,750. And between like, basically it's like that, high nines, low tens for a Pasha or a Santos chronograph. And there's the Daytona, the Cartier. I remember when we saw that like 2 years ago at SIHH or Watches and Wonders or whatever it was. We laughed out because we all looked at the watch and it despite it being clearly a Pasha de Cartier, which is very much its own thing, it had such strong Daytona vibes. It was hysterical. It was basically the Daytona de Cartier. But it's like 10 grand still.
So Breitling are competing against Cartier. I think that's two very different market segments and customers.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, I like these watches. These will be dead chunky. They'll be slightly show-offy, slightly more blingy than the equivalent Tudor, even the equivalent Rolex. The way that the bezel will catch the light, because as you say, all the notches and bits and pieces. And because it's Breitling, they've also produced one that's bright yellow and carbon and all the rest of it. The one I do like, the blue face chronograph, is very, very nice indeed. On the full metal, that does look particularly attractive.
This needs more bling.
Metal bracelet.
Gives me more bling. It needs like a Polish dial or something, like on a Sejima edition. It's like you can tell like the modern Breitling touch was like, okay, let's just go with like a simple dial in the sense that there's no texture, there's no like sunburst or anything like that. It's just a flat color, to go to contrast against the busyness of the case and of the different like sub-dials and stuff. So it's a little bit toned down, but again, that is within the dimensions of an Avenger and not within like dress watch.
Yeah. It's interesting because you mentioned Grand Seiko, and I'm looking at the GMT.
Nice.
And getting actually surprising Grand Seiko vibes when you look at that, the black dial. That's actually really nice. So yeah, go and check out all those watches. We'll maybe get Sylvan on to chat about these in a couple of weeks' time. We'll reach out, Sylvan. You're probably listening. Give us a shout. It is also one of the week's most talked about articles. I'm scared to scroll down because I think most of it's going to be about the price, I suspect. But I think that's just everyone's reflection on everything at the moment. Is the first thing people see is the price. But go check out the article.
Hi, this is Ariel Adams, founder of aBlogtoWatch, with a message about eBay. I visit eBay daily and have been relying on eBay to learn about and acquire watches for more than 20 years. Did you know that you can now buy watches directly from brands or their authorized dealers on eBay? Timepieces coveted by watch enthusiasts from brands like Zodiac, Laco, Parallel, and more are part of eBay's Certified by Brand program. Here's how it works. Luxury names are partnering with eBay to bring brand new and pre-owned watches and other luxury accessories directly to you. Certified by Brand includes a minimum 1-year factory warranty for watches and offers an unprecedented selection of new and used watches directly from the source, all with the peace of mind you can expect from eBay. Visit ebay.com/certified by brand for more information.
Mike Razak. Now, I've already told Mike that I've fallen out with him over this. Mike has done an article called Wait a Minute, Power Reserve Isn't That Important, for which he denigrates 8-day Panerai Power Reserve wearers, to which I sent him a photograph saying he was now dead to me because that is my everyday watch. It's basically the watch he focuses on. What do we think about power reserves? I like a power reserve. I think they're necessary. I can kind of understand, like, if it's an automatic watch, do you really need a power reserve? Because it's kind of pointless. But on a manual watch, I think more power reserve is better. Anybody obsessed with power reserves? I like them. It's like a really slow hand. You see it slowly. I don't have time to be winding my watch every day.
I love a power reserve indicator, and I think some of the brands have done it really well and incorporated it really well into the design. So I'm thinking of, for example, Chopin on some of their Mille Milles. how they've kind of made it very automotive themed by sort of the empty and full kind of markings on it and things like that. So I really like power reserve indicators. The only thing that you talked about having them on manual wind and automatic watches and the difference there. I remember reviewing the Oris Big Crown Caliber 473, which is a manual wind with I think it's a 5-day power reserve. And that has a power reserve indicator, but it's actually on the back of the watch, so it's on the underside of the case. So rather than being on the dial. And that one always struck me as being slightly odd, because if I've got a power reserve indicator, I really want to see it because I just love the look of that complication, if you can call it a complication. So I would want that to be dial side. But also they've created a manual wind watch with a really long power reserve. But, for me, part of the joy of a manual wind watch is winding it. So I almost kind of don't care if it's got a long power reserve because I want to be able to wind it every day.
Yeah, but you say that, but then if you actually own a manual wind watch, you don't want to have to wind every day. And you do want to know when it's starting to run properly slow. So I can look at mine and go, right, is this time actually correct? Or has my watch stopped?
I hate that feeling.
Because I've not got time to check I've not got time to stop and put my glasses on to enable me. It's part of being old. I've not got the vision enough to be able to see if the running seconds is actually running, but I can see from a distance where the power reserve indicator is. And then from that note, my watch probably is telling the right time. So that's what I like about it.
Maybe I've just got too much time on my hands.
That it's actually working. David, thoughts, feelings, emotions?
I want all the power reserve in the world as a customer. Don't shortchange. It's like basically a watch that has a low or short power reserve is like a slow engine in a car. If it can rev up to 9,000, then it should not rev to 5. I don't care if I don't use it between 5 and 9 all the time. Sometimes I want to, and it's nice when you do. It's so give me that. And we're looking at price points where, again, a lot of I think a lot of brands have realized that people want more power reserve, and if we demand such things, give me one power. Because if people want this, brands react. Like when jewel counts were all the rage, then they started just dumping jewels into watch movements decades ago, right? And now, wouldn't you know, people started caring about power reserves, and we see popping up like movements or regular like well-known movements modified to go up to not 40 hours or 42 hours, but 60 hours, and sometimes 65 or even longer than that. So again, and they modify or re-engineer existing movements some of the time to make that happen. And, in some other cases, whenever a manufacturer comes out with a new movement that has a barely 2-day power reserve, I look at them and I'm like, what are you doing? It's really like, again, a lazy, not very efficient engine from a car manufacturer. It just doesn't look right.
It's definitely a sign of progress, isn't it? I think the longer the power reserve, it shows greater efficiency and perhaps more development has gone into refining and improving the movement.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think it's 2001 Space Odyssey worthy of representing progress, but I do get you.
Well,
I get your meaning.
There's this.
We discovered fire, we discovered weapons, then we discovered power reserves.
I saw the director's cut of Back to the Future, and there's this scene where they come to 2015, and all the watches have 10 days of power reserve. It's been edited out because it was very niche. But
amazing. Imagine a day like that.
I have seen the future, and it is 10 days.
10 days.
I've concluded that Mike, and I know Mike is listening to this because he does the show notes, so he has to listen to this. I think Mike is just in the pocket of Big Watchwinder. I think Big Winder. I think Big Winder it has gotten hold of Mike. They've got some photographs. They've got some evidence of him wearing like 22mm watches.
In gold.
Got something on him, and so Big Watchwinder is Mike is now in their pocket, and that is the reason for publishing this article, because that's the only reason I can come up with reasonably. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, I've been debating as to whether we should cover the Grand Seiko 44GS mid-size watches for the US market, because if we do cover them, we have to play Guess the Price of the Grand Seiko. So what do you think, lads? Shall we play Guess the Price of the Grand Seiko?
Yes.
So Grand Seiko 44GS, it's a mid-size watch. It's a 44GS case, 3 varieties, a pink, a kind of shocking blue, and dull grey, we'll call it. I know there'll probably be colours named after a mountain somewhere, but that's the colours I'm calling them. What else do you want to know before you
What's
have your
the
first
movement?
guess? The movement is...
9S64, I can see that.
Yeah, the movement is caliber 9S64 manual wind mechanical movement. Does that mean there's a power reserve on this somewhere?
Can I also ask which
certainly not in the front.
Which Japanese mountain or blossom or river
A blossoming mountain.
it gives them the inspiration?
All of them.
All of them. Okay.
All of them. It depends. The Grand Seiko factory has in fact got windows on 4 sides, and depending on where you sit in that building depends on the view you get. So if you sit in the north side of the building, all you see is Mount Fuji. So everything you design is Mount Fuji. If you sit on the left-hand side, all you see is like rows and rows of trees with blossom and all the rest of it.
And did the dial designer design them in winter, spring, or autumn?
Exactly. You see, you're following the logic here. But they are installing a turntable system so that the whole factory now rotates so that everyone gets a shot at designing a watch that reminds them of something. Because the guys that only have a view of mountains have the well is now dry of the inspiration.
And the guy who looks out over the motorway intersection, maybe his inspiration wasn't kind of up there, was it?
Yeah. The south side of the building does have a view of the main road, and so those guys' designs don't get designed and made very often.
Oh, that was
so
the guy that did the concrete dial one, wasn't it?
Exactly. The skips that they keep out the front, it's not a great inspiration, but they are yellow skips, so anytime you see a bit of yellow in a Grand Seiko, it's because that's the guy who has the view of the skips out of the window from the factory. Right, let's do this. These are 36.5 millimeters, so they are small. I wouldn't call that mid-size.
You see the trend unfolding.
It's coming.
Yes.
Big winder and small watch is on its way.
There'll be a gold version out before you know it.
Thank you.
So here we go. Right, Simon, give us a guess of a price in US dollars.
Oh, I think this is going to be anywhere from $650 US up to 147,000. But if I've got to pick a number, I'm going to go with 6,000.
6,000 USD from Simon. Yeah. David, higher or lower for a Grand Seiko?
Lower. I think it's like
lower.
4,800.
Okay, the answer is 5,900. So Simon wins the prize for probably being the closest. Maybe again it's just the way that the marketing is working on it, but this feels like an all right price for this if it wasn't so small. I mean, presumably this is trying to compete with a bit of colour against the kind of Rolex date just OP
the smaller OPs
type thing. And for 5,600, if you want some proper colour, 5,900 if you want some proper colour, this isn't bad. Do we think this will go down well in the US? Is this something a trend or?
Yeah. What's really interesting to me is when I saw the pictures of the one with the pink dial, the cherry blossom dial, which has got this, when you look closely, it's got this really sort of fine radiating grain sort of pattern in it. It reminded me so much of a Nodus that I reviewed a few months ago, which has virtually the identical look to the dial, and almost the same colour. And the really interesting thing was that the guys at Nodus have actually talked about how Grand Seiko and Seiko themselves are a big inspiration for their dials. But they've actually come out with a dial that then Grand Seiko have, I'm sure it's by chance, but have almost done exactly the same thing 6 months later.
Because is the pink OP not one of the ones that Rolex discontinued? Am I imagining that? Did Rolex have a pink OP? They did, didn't they?
They had,
They
but
did have
there's
it.
so many different sizes and whatever. It's impossible to track, which size and which color they discontinued on a whim.
And it may as well be discontinued. You probably never get one.
Actually, it's
For all
possible to
practical
track
purposes.
it. I just can't be bothered. I think that's how it should be.
Yes, let's clarify that. It is possible to understand the watches that Rolex are producing. It's just, can anybody be bothered? Because as you rightly say, Simon, as soon as they're launched, they're effectively discontinued.
Yeah.
We dealt last week, and we deal regularly with collaborations. Zenith Chronomaster Sport Aaron Rodgers edition watch. Now, maybe we should have waited for Ariel to be back on, but one of the main conceits of Ariel's article last week was, could this watch have been produced if both parties hadn't been there? Like, what does each party bring to this? David, what does Aaron Rodgers, NFL footballer, is he the guy that also, who is it that's bought a bit of Birmingham City? Is that Aaron Rodgers? Is that some other?
You were asking me as though I was his manager, and I had to justify like what he brought. I had absolutely no idea what he brought to this. Maybe the colors, I guess.
Is Aaron Rodgers fit? I mean, maybe we're the wrong people to be speaking about American sports.
Yes.
Simon, do you know anything about American sports? Does Aaron Rodgers mean anything to you? He's apparently
yeah.
some guy.
Absolutely nothing. I can't help you with this.
So, on the basis that we don't really know who Aaron Rodgers is, can we guess at what he's brought to this? I'm guessing it must be something to do with the colour. I mean, they're very much highlighting this yellow.
He's
and
worn.
Obviously, the watch is bright green. Does he wear yellow and green?
This is literally the first sentence in Ed's article. Aaron Rodgers has worn the color green for the whole of his storied 19-year-long career.
Ah,
You know,
Packers, I see.
Well, great writing from Ed. He clarifies what for us, ignorant Europeans scratching our heads like, oh, this is Aaron Rodgers. Probably all of America knows him very well. So it's just us ignorant fools on the old continent who don't know, what this is. But I'm more just about just the proportions of the watch is just a little bit odd. Otherwise, the quality is great. The color is cool. The dial quality is absolutely spot on. It's just a bit of just a little bit bloated as far as the bezel size and the lugs are concerned. It's just a small watch that wants to pose as though it was larger. That's the vibe I'm getting, but that's nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. It's just with the Chronomaster Sport in general.
Yeah.
I mean, the team is called the Green Bay Packers. So should it not really be a collaboration watch with the Green Bay Packers because it's a green watch? Aaron Rodgers himself is not green. I assume.
Yeah, well, I'm happy that it's not Aaron Rodgers colored. I mean, maybe it may be like a skin tone or something that look amazing in ceramic, but I'm not sure.
That's the watch that would represent a true collaboration with Aaron Rodgers. If the watch was actually the colour of Aaron Rodgers. Now, I haven't got a clue what colour Aaron Rodgers is, frankly. But that would be fun.
Yes.
If the watch was Aaron Rodgers colour.
I'm just picturing him looking like the Hulk.
That's right, yeah. So, what do we think of the Chronomaster Sport? There was a moment there where the Chronomaster Sport felt like it was competing. I mean, it came out and everyone was like, oh, it's just a Daytona copy. And there was a moment where the prices spiked horribly. But now I think if you go on to like eBay, Chrono24, etc., and look, you can buy used Chronomaster Sports for less than retail. At least the last time I looked, you could. So does this watch now really represent some incredibly good value as, a watch that frankly is better than the Daytona other than brand recognition? And actually you can get both new and used. If you want a green one, there now is a green one. Has Zenith made inroads in this watch, or is the fact that the hype has died off mean that actually this hasn't really done what Zenith wanted it to do, which was take them to the next level in terms of brand recognition?
I think you're probably right on that point. I mean, look, I've got to put my cards on the table. I'm a huge Zenith fanboy.
I thought you were about to confess you had to be a huge NFL fan.
No, sadly not. Although I have just learned that the Arabic numerals on the dial on this one are apparently based on the design of the numerals on the back of the shirts, which I thought was quite an interesting little
What you're
touch.
saying is you read the article.
Yes, in the last 45 seconds. But no,
Thanks. Shout out to Ed. Thanks for putting all this information at the top of the article, so we didn't
Exactly.
because for us Europeans and Rogers, we're actually just not that interested. But
no, actually,
the
I'm
watch
on
is
the
nice.
Zenith website, and there's a nice little it's about kind of 100-word summary, which is perfect. But no, I really really like Zenith. It's a brand that really speaks to me. I don't own one, but I can see myself owning a Zenith in the future. I think I think the Chronomaster Sport is a pretty underrated watch, in my opinion. I've tried one on. It wears beautifully. The exhibition caseback on it is tremendous. Their movements are always finished really, really nicely. For me, this is a steal compared to a Daytona. And, if I had the choice of the two, I'd be buying a Chronomaster Sport and pocketing the change. But yeah, I guess Zenith hasn't got the pull clearly that Rolex has. But for me, this is sort of almost the watch guy's watch. It's the one you'd buy if you are, for me anyway, if you're a real watch geek.
Apologies to Ed because I actually just did look at the pictures. Now reading the article, Aaron Rodgers is injured. They've released a watch, and the poor guy has gone and got injured and done his Achilles in.
Yeah.
I'm not sure this is great timing for the release of this. Let's release a watch. Oh, where's our superstar player? Yeah, he's done his Achilles in. But there we go. Hopefully that's no reflection on what will happen to the watch. But there are 250 of these available, 12,400 Swiss francs. I think if you want a green watch, and thankfully they've not put like an American football or anything like that. Nobody has to anybody in Europe, this is just a green watch because nobody will get the references. I don't know, does it say on the case back anything about Mr. Rogers or the Green Bay Packers? Is there any reference? Is there actually any reference to him personally at all in this watch? I don't think there is there? I'm just looking through the pictures.
It's literally the colours and the numerals.
It's literally just the colours.
No, it's got to be on the case back somewhere. I mean, it says something on the... This is such a shambles. We have no idea what we're looking at.
It just says 1 of 250. I don't think there's any reference to Aaron Rodgers on this
There
watch.
is. You see that the thing that there's an ear logo or something like that on the case back. It's edged into the sapphire case back.
Oh, right, okay. What's that? I don't actually.
It's his logo.
It's
It's
an ER.
AR.
Yeah, it's like that's for the royal family.
Well,
That's ER's. Yeah. So if you're a Celtic fan or a Celta Vigo fan, who else plays in green in European sport? Anybody playing green in Hungarian football? You don't know anything about Hungarian football, do you, David?
no, I choose to ignore it.
No.
But it's
Choose to ignore it.
it's
There'll be some French teams that play in green.
Oh, I'm sure. But, it's like actually one of the few like nicely executed co-brandings that I've seen because it's just edged into the sapphire crystal, probably with the laser. It's a little bit darker gray or like more like opaque where the logo is, but otherwise you have an unobstructed view on this rather spectacular Alpha mirror movement. So well done on that.
Yeah, I think if you ask nicely, they might give you just a normal case back on this watch.
And then you have a nice
That's
green
what I
watch.
prefer
bothered.
because I want an unobstructed view of that movement.
Unobstructed view. So there you go. Go and check out the Zenith. It is a lovely watch. Listen, don't get me wrong. This is a nice looking watch. I do personally like the proportions of it. So go and check that out. One more quick review before we play Hit Miss Maybe. Karlev Bucherer, Monero, Peripheral, Big Date Black. David, you're a bit of a CFB fan. I'm a bit of a fan of the Peripheral Rotor. What do we think of this execution? It's a bit, the difference in sizes of things.
Yeah, the proportions is what.
The proportions take a bit of getting used to. Not sure it works.
It's a great movement with the peripheral. You can look at it. You can see that it's very unique, very cool. I like the big date. I like the day indication. It apparently has a power reserve. It's just it's just the overall vibe. It's just not. It's a developed taste, I should say.
Yeah, I'm not sure all the things are in the right place. I think, it's got all the right functions on it. It's like the Morecambe and Wise sketch, which you'll not be familiar with, David. It's got all the right notes. They're just not necessarily
the right
all
order.
being played in the right order. So I'm not sure that that's where I'd put the CFB logo. I think you want this like a resonance watch where all the bits rotate so that you can
Yes.
see as to where the power. I think the power reserve and the day. Now, mind you do say Wednesday the 4th, so maybe it does read better left to right. I don't know. It just doesn't. It's just a little bit jarring. And for $22,000, I don't think I'm buying a watch. I mean, I don't think I'm buying a watch at $22,000 full stop, but I don't think I'm buying a watch that just makes me go, it's a bit too Picasso. The face is just rearranged in a funny order. Simon?
Yeah, I'm not going to make any friends at Carl F. Bukera with this one. But I think you summed it up really well with the Morecambe and Wise analogy. I think they've got so many qualities about this watch that I really like. I love the forged carbon case. That movement is beautiful, and I just want to turn it over and look at the back all the time.
Yeah.
But I think that the dial for me is a car crash. It feels like they've just kind of taken lots of elements, thrown them up in the air, and see where they land. And so I'm afraid this is a no from me.
Let's play a quick round of hit miss maybe. First up, mundane stop to go watches models updated 2 additional sizes. What do we think of the mundane stop go? I love these watches. If I was recommending anyone just to buy a single watch that might lead them down the garden path of becoming a watch geek and not having to spend too much money doing it, I'd have them buy one of these or buy one of these for them. So this is a big hit from my point of view. What do you guys think?
I've got to agree with you. And the weird thing is I've been aware of these watches or the mundane kind of design for some time, and it's never really spoken to me. And I looked at this release and I read this article, and it was like a light bulb moment. All of a sudden, I went, "I want one." This is just just seems so cool, and the price point is just so affordable as well. So I think this is a big hit.
$700 effectively.
Yeah.
So, big hit. David?
I like the high contrast dials and the dashes of red. I just don't really like the concept of thinking of the railways, every time and taking the train every time I look at my watch. It's just such an unluxurious experience, even with the eye-wateringly expensive Swiss train ticket prices. It's like it's just somehow I feel like I'm standing on a platform waiting for a train, and it's like -5 and drizzling snow, and that's the vibe I'm getting whenever I look at these dials. But honestly, these are great watches, super legible, perfect, much better proportions for $700 than what Carl F. Bukera gives you for $23,000. So it's the proportions are spot on, super wearable, goes with more of a business casual, and downwards from there. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Last time I was on a Swiss train, the conductor made a poor girl cry by fining her because she had got on the train while buying her ticket.
No way.
So it meant that the timestamp on her ticket was exactly 1 minute after the train had departed.
Who does
which
that?
Apparently is a big no-no in Switzerland. You have to buy your ticket and it'd be timestamped before
at least
you
half
get
an hour
on the
before.
train. Whereas in the UK, you just get on the train and there's a 50-50 chance a ticket inspector will even be on the same train. So you may just travel for free or you may not. But either way, you won't get fined if you've not got a ticket. You'll just have to buy a ticket.
Oh my goodness.
Not that I travel on public transport, but there we go. Anyway, so did you say that was a hit, a miss, or a maybe, David?
Well, I guess it's a hit for anybody who's not, allergic to the railway vibes.
The railways. Good stuff. Right, Bell & Ross BR0392 Diver Tarot Watch. I feel like I must be being taken in because everything I'm seeing so far for the past couple of weeks has been a hit, and this is a hit as well. I'm loving Bell & Ross at the moment. And yeah, I can't say further than this. Go check this watch out. How's your Bell & Ross favouring at the moment, David?
I like Mia Bell & Ross. Why not? It's not a brand that everybody loves, but that's cool. Maybe not the diver, is the one that I would get. I would get some wonky, weird, Bell & Ross like the one we laughed at the other day with the gyro compass a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Something like that. And honestly, I had a few in for review, and they were the ones that I had in for review, especially the X5 series, is beautifully made, really. And I was very positively surprised by that. The price is there to match, but at least it was like the case, the dial, the execution was very high.
Yeah. No, I love these. Love these. Simon?
Yeah, I'm becoming a bit of a Bell & Ross convert as well. I mean, they were a brand that I always used to kind of walk past because, generally speaking, they were just way too big for me. And I remember trying on one of the original BR03 92s, the black dial one with the black matte black case, and it just looked huge on my wrist. But I just had the new BR03 in for review, and there's a video just gone up on my channel with a review of that one. And Bell & Ross are making smaller cases now. And this one, it's only come down by a mil, I think it's a 41 mil, but it just wears really, really well. And so I was really quite... so I'm really kind of getting switched onto to the brand. The dive watches, I'm not so sure, maybe not so quite convinced by the dive watches. I think that for me, the pilot's watches look fantastic. As Dave said, that's X5 as well. I think looks really, really good. But there's something about the dive watch aesthetic that I'm not sure quite works with their case shape.
Cool. And finally for this week, Studio Underdog, the 02 series field watch. The difficult second album, but have they cracked it, or do they need to wait until album number 3 comes along? Simon, hit miss, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, look, the first one, the Bicompax chronograph, I loved, and I loved it because it was just so quirky. Those little details on the dial, like the on the watermelon, the indices being like the pips, the texturing. It was just so fun. These ones, I feel like Richard has. Maybe he's sort of targeting a slightly more, maybe a slightly wider audience who wants something that's a little bit more, or less playful, a bit more serious. And I can completely see the logic in that. But I'm afraid for me, I think it's lost a little bit of the magic that I loved about the first design. And I was really hoping that we'd get something in that vein, if not even more playful, more fun from the brand going forward. I love the execution of it. I think there are some really nice touches. I think that the way that he's used the sapphire plates and it creates those shadows and the reflections, I think is really nice. But this one isn't for me, I'm afraid.
So is it a miss or a maybe?
I think it's a maybe because whilst it's not for me, I think that clearly it does work for a lot of other people. So I can't say that it's a miss because I think, clearly, well, if he hasn't already taken a ton of pre-orders on this, then I'll be really, really surprised. So I think, I wish him every success with it. He deserves every success. He's just the nicest guy in watchmaking, as far as I'm concerned. And I really hope he does well with it. So I wouldn't want to say that it's a miss. It's just perhaps not for me.
I think he's sold a shed load. David, I wonder if Richard at Studio Underdog is a secret brother of yours. Because
Why?
I wonder if he too. Well, I wonder if he too has the same regret about changing the O to a 0 as you do about putting an underscore in your Instagram account. So I think you two are brothers from a different mother, as the saying would go.
You're hacking the system.
What do you? Hacking the system from the ground up, one Instagram account at a time.
Yes.
Because I think the 0 is a great idea, but I wonder if that just creates so many other problems now that you're a bigger watch brand, just with all sorts of other unintended consequences. Things like filling out forms about your company, about your business. No, it's a 0. It's not an O. You're doing your VAT return.
It's actually pronounced studio under the zero.
So, David, hit miss maybe on this.
Definitely a hit for me. I like the color transition dial. I remember when I first I saw the first pics of this. It's like, how is that a thing? Like, is it all loomed? And it's all loomed, and its color transition is fantastic. I like it. Like it very much. And it's priced at what?
900 notes.
900, yeah.
Yeah, for me, this is a maybe, but only because it's just too small. Gonna make some bigger watches. I do love our British watch industry, but the big players in the British watch industry, in the kind of micro brand, one man band, creator, owner, driver type, all of their watches are too small in my in my book. So Nick at Fears, Richard at Studio Underdog, can you make some bigger watches for those of us that wear bigger watches? So that's the reason. But yeah, great watch. I know it's sold an absolute shed load. So all the best to them. That is us for this week, other than to flag up from Pippi, who you will see on Instagram, Phil, who's contributed once or twice to the show, a reminder that next week is Pogue Day. Pogue Day falls next week. At some point, the 50th anniversary of the Seiko Pogue. So do go and check
Oh my
out,
goodness.
Pippi,
Will there be a limited
Phil
edition
Neville
to celebrate
on
it?
Instagram. Well, you know what? I bet that this is the single time where Seiko say absolutely nothing, probably. They probably do. They probably launch something to do with some flower in some deep mountain valley surrounded by blue snow.
Great.
And completely forget that one of their watches was the first chronograph in space, or the first automatic chronograph in space. So yeah, they'll probably completely have forgotten about it. But hey ho, there we go. Good stuff. What is everybody up to the next week? Simon, where can folk find you? What have you been doing?
So I've been pretty busy, actually. I mean, since the visit to MBNF and posting that video, I've also done the review of the Bell & Ross, the mentioned, just also reviewed the new Christopher Ward. So you can go to the Escapement 24 channel on YouTube and check all those out. And I've got a Nodus in for review at the moment, so that's probably going to be the next one. So yeah, busy at the moment.
Good. And your channel is called, because you've completely failed to mention it, so your marketing skills need something
to be desired, which for someone with 25 plus years in marketing is a real faux pas, isn't it? No, it's the Escapement 24 channel, so it's Escapement and the numbers 24.
Numbers 24, not written in words.
Not written in words.
Not with zeros or underscores.
Not in
or dashes
green.
Or hyphens or commons.
Not in the
green.
font of American football jersey.
Football, that's fine. David, you're about to jump on a plane to Geneva. Where are you staying? Because that's always the important thing. What hotel you're in Geneva? Yeah, nice hotel.
Yeah, hopefully a nice hotel. It's bound to be on the exterior. I'm yet to check. Not in the not in the downtown, because the event is a little bit further out from where we usually are when it's Geneva Watch Days and the like. So yeah, looking forward to that. 2 nights there, popping back home right after that, and I look forward to reporting from the forum once
we're all going to be. And are we all going to be glued to the live feed of GPHG later in the week?
No. I think that's
I will
Not
give it a
me.
curse. One of these days we're going to do a live watching show.
So,
Do you have the equivalent of Gogglebox in Hungary, David? If I say Gogglebox, does that mean anything to you?
no, nothing.
It's where
It's
where
such
they
a great
film
show.
people watching TV shows.
Uh-huh.
So it would be like, the 2 old men in the Muppet Show?
Yes.
It would be like filming them watching the award ceremony of GPHG,
Okay.
and you just get the commentary. So it is actually quite fun. So one of these days, I think we need to get you and Ariel, and we'll just film you watching the GPHG awards and whatever auction is on, and just get the Sarky commentary
Oh my goodness.
as you go along.
The reaction
we
video.
will be
There we
banned
go.
from Switzerland after, that the country as a whole.
That's right. No more chocolate for you. Good stuff. Well, thank you all very much for joining us. Have a great week. See you again soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Catch you next week.